Two officials of the Sabaragamuwa Provincial Council remanded over 77 million rupee scam. Probe launched into causing losses to the government worth 2,700 million rupees during importation of phosphate. Many areas to experience heavy rains tonight. 35 reservoirs exceed spill level. Indian military strike imminent over the next 24 to 36 hours, warns Pakistan's Minister of Information.
On to those stories in detail. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation has announced a revision in fuel prices effective from midnight tonight, the 30th. Accordingly, the price of a litre of 92-octane petrol will be reduced by 6 rupees, 95-octane petrol by 20 rupees, auto diesel by 12 rupees, super diesel by 6 rupees and kerosene by 5 rupees. These revised prices will come into effect across all fuel stations from midnight. For more details, visit www.newsfirst.lk.
On to more local news. Charles Whiteley, head of the South Asia division of the European Union, has stated that the criteria for granting GSP Plus concessions are aligned with the current policies of the Sri Lankan government. During a meeting with President Andrakumara Dissanayake, Whiteley expressed the UAE's readiness to continue supporting Sri Lanka in achieving commercial successes.
The Generalized Scheme of Preferences Plus, or the GSP Plus, is a special incentive arrangement for sustainable development and good governance aimed at supporting developing countries at risk. This scheme has provided tariff concessions to Sri Lanka for exports such as garments, fisheries, ceramics and rubber to 9 European Union countries, enhancing the competitiveness of Sri Lankan products in the European market. The review of Sri Lanka's progress in implementing 27 international conventions related to the GSP Plus scheme is conducted every 2 years. Currently, an EU delegation led by Charles Whiteley, head of the South Asia division of the European Union, is in Sri Lanka to commence this review. Whiteley emphasized the long-standing friendship between the EU and Sri Lanka, which has led to numerous commercial achievements. He reiterated the European Union's commitment to supporting Sri Lanka in achieving future commercial victories and encouraged the country to continue supplying standardized and high-quality products. President Dissanayake expressed gratitude for the European Union's assistance during Sri Lanka's economic challenges. He highlighted the positive impact of the GSP Plus concessions on Sri Lanka's export sector and economic growth. The president also acknowledged that past political systems and corruption contributed to the country's economic downfall and emphasized the government's commitment to transforming Sri Lanka into a well-governed nation, a process that will take time.
Deputy Minister of Finance and Planning Harshana Surya Peruma expressed hope that an agreement could be reached within the next 90-day grace period announced by US President Donald Trump regarding the 44% reciprocal tariff. He made the statement at a press conference held at the Department of Government Information.
On the 2nd of April, US President Donald Trump announced the imposition of reciprocal tariffs ranging from 20% to 60% on 60 countries. This move aims to minimize the advantages other countries gain from trade imbalances, with Sri Lanka facing a 44% tariff. However, President Trump later declared a 90-day grace period for these tariffs, excluding China. This period is intended to allow affected countries to negotiate and potentially reach agreements.
What steps did Sri Lanka take?
In response, a delegation from Sri Lanka met with Ambassador Jamieson Greer at the United States Trade Representative Office. According to a statement released by the President's Office on the 25th of April, the discussions aimed at advancing towards a bilateral trade agreement. The USTR operates under the Executive Office of the President of the United States and is responsible for developing, coordinating and overseeing international trade, commodity and direct investment policy. Ambassador Jamieson Greer, U.S. Trade Representative, serves as the President's principal trade advisor, negotiator and spokesperson on trade issues.
What was discussed with the United States Trade Representative?
We understand there are two fronts in the U.S. tariff discussions. One is bringing down the trade deficit that U.S. is recording as of now compared to the surplus that Sri Lanka is recording. Second aspect is addressing matters relating to the tariff side of it, how to improve it further. We are going through an ambitious revenue consolidation program. So therefore, there are certain challenges that we may have, which other countries are not subjected at the moment. Our position is to continuously maintain that Sri Lanka's ability, as I mentioned, for industries on their competitive advantage to integrate with the global supply chain, and energy sector was identified a key area during these discussions. I'm sure we all agree Sri Lanka is a net importer of some of the oil-related product, energy-related product to Sri Lanka. So there is a vast opportunity for somebody who is competitive enough to provide with the best pricing to engage with Sri Lanka, either in the gas segments or in the oil segment or in the crude, refined fuel segment or crude oil supply segment. So there are various opportunities on those areas. We presented those opportunities to the authorities over there to engage their suppliers, vendors, counterparts, to engage in the discussions to review the possibility and explore the opportunity to supply those items to Sri Lanka. So one quick win for the parties is if we can get some of these bulk supplies which is relating to the energy sector, if there is an opportunity, if there is a possibility to assist and facilitate on those areas, which will create a win-win situation for both parties. So we had several discussions relating to those areas.
Will a bilateral agreement be signed?
clarifications පැහැදිලි කර ගැනීම මොනවා හරි තිබුණා නම් අපිට
We expect to receive any clarification from the US within the next 2 weeks. Following that, we have a 90-day period to conclude these discussions. We are hopeful that we can reach a satisfactory agreement before the end of this period. Their expectations was that if there was any discriminatory tariffs imposed by the US on imports entering the country, those would be addressed. We discussed these issues not just in the context of specific goods imported to Sri Lanka, but in a broader sense of affecting all countries.
නැතුව සියලුම රටවල් වලට බලපානවා නම් යම්කිසි භාණ්ඩයක් ලංකාවට ආනයනය කරනකොට ඒවා පිළිබඳව නෙමෙයි විශේෂයෙන්ම සාකච්ඡා කරුණේ.
Did Sri Lanka engage with appropriate institutions and individuals?
Former President Ranil Wickremesinghe stated yesterday that there was an opportunity to discuss these issues during the visit of US Vice President J.D. Vance to India. Deputy Minister of Finance Dr. Anil Jayantha responded to Wickremesinghe's comments.
STR ඒ කියන්නේ එයා තමයි තැපැල් පෙට්ටිය.
STR is essentially the mailbox. He went and talked, then submitted the proposal to the mailbox. What we should have done was to send the Prime Minister to talk to him. Modi had said he would help Sri Lanka with this issue. So we should have asked him to give us an hour to discuss it. We should have sent Prime Minister Harini to meet him and agree on some relief. Why didn't we send her? Now we are just looking at the mailbox.
දැන් ඉතින් තැපැල් පෙට්ටියට දාලා බලාගෙන ඉන්නේ.
එතුමා කියන විදිහට අපි සාකච්ඡා කළ යුතුන්නේ එතුමා කියන එක්කෙනත් එක්කමද?
Should we engage in talks with those he recommends? We should discuss this with the person involved diplomatically, whether it was the Prime Minister of India or someone else. We don't know if they discussed trade or their geopolitical interests. I don't know if Ranil Wickremesinghe was clearly informed by the Indians. The direct decision on trade matters is made by the United States Trade Representative's office. I don't know if it was the US Vice President or President involved. That's why we had a face-to-face discussion with Mr. Greer. We emphasized that we will make the most accurate decision diplomatically based on the mandate given to us. We informed not only Ranil Wickremesinghe but also other groups about how the country is governed today and what is being done. You should question the validity and credibility of these claims yourself.
What is the position of the International Monetary Fund?
Now, on the issue of U.S. tariffs and how does it affect the country, obviously, as I mentioned, trade policy uncertainty is one of the issues that we have discussed quite extensively with the authorities on what could that mean for Sri Lanka's economy and economic performance. We know that obviously the authorities are committed to achieving program objectives and to see how are the targets being met. They have also committed to addressing any sort of underperformance or deviation from program targets with remedial measures. So we think that we take this commitment very seriously, and we note their strong impetus for delivering on those. Obviously, the global trade policy uncertainties, as I mentioned, is a significant risk. All I can say at this point is that if these risks materialize, we will work with the authorities to assess the impact of those shocks, and we will support the country in formulating specific policy responses within the contours of the existing IMF program. Now, within, obviously, in general, as I mentioned, the global trade policy uncertainty for any small open economy and definitely for Sri Lanka poses significant downside risks. For these discussions, we understand that obviously the issues that arise and how they should be baked into the program. If there is any substantial risk that may pan out either on the back of tariffs or some other disruption, we will work with the authorities to incorporate them, to assess their impact and put them into policy responses.
Solicitor General Viraj Dayaratne has been appointed as the acting Attorney General. This appointment comes as Attorney General Parinda Ranasinghe is currently abroad. On to more local news, a deputy director and a former secretary of the Sabaragamuwa Provincial Council have been arrested by the Criminal Investigation Department in connection with the fraud involving false measurement reports for 77 projects, including roads and sports grounds, amounting to 77 million rupees. The suspects were presented before the Ambelipite Magistrates Court, where Magistrate Thilina Mahesh Piris ordered for the door to be remanded until the 8th of May.
On the 7th of April, officers from the Criminal Investigations Department arrested a deputy director who had been evading the police. The arrested individual is Kusumlata Kumar Nayaka, the Assistant Planning Director of the Sabaragamuwa Provincial Ministry of Road Development, Rural Infrastructure, Tourism Development and Provincial Road Maintenance. Additionally, Deva Priya Vijay Raja, a former secretary of the same ministry, surrendered to the Ambelipite Magistrates Court through his lawyer in connection with this case. Previously, a former technical officer, a clerk and a secretary of the Ambelipite Pradeshia Sabha were also arrested on suspicion of involvement in this fraud. The police revealed that an audit investigation uncovered a fraud involving false measurement reports for 77 projects, including roads and sports grounds in the Sabaragamuwa province. Although funds were allocated for these projects, no actual construction took place. This fraud, which occurred during 2016 and 2017, was discovered through investigations conducted by the Sabaragamuwa Provincial Council. In a related development, the Illegal Assets Investigation Division has launched an inquiry into a case where the Lanka Phosphate Company allegedly sold 3,000 metric tons of rock phosphate to 3 companies, resulting in a loss of 2,700 million rupees to the government. Officials from the division reported the details of this case to the Colombo Magistrates Court and obtained the necessary orders to proceed with the investigation.
Former President Ranil Wickremesinghe stated yesterday in Galle that US President Donald Trump might be upset due to the ongoing investigations into the Easter Sunday terrorist attacks. Today, Minister Bimal Ratnayake responded to the statement in Balangoda.
මේ රටේ පාස්කු ඉරිදා බෝම්බේ පිපිරුණාම මොකද්ද සිදු වුනේ?
When the Easter Sunday bombings occurred, President Trump immediately sent me a message. He said he would send a team from the FBI, and indeed 2 American officials were sent. Later, he called me and asked if there was anything else we needed. We coordinated with them, and subsequently representatives from the UK, Australia and China also reached out. Ultimately, they concluded that the attack was orchestrated internally by ISIS-affiliated groups, including Zahran and others. They said no external entities were involved. Now, what is being said? The current government claims that there were additional Muslim groups involved. They claim a regular Muslim person allegedly organized this to ensure Gotabaya Rajapaksa's victory. They say the investigation needs to be reopened. What does President Trump think? I did what was necessary the first time, and now they are saying it wasn't right. Should we redo it for one person's sake? What does this imply? When the world labels it as extremists, we deny it.
මොකක්ද එතකොට කියන්නේ? අපි අන්තවාදී කොටසක් කියලා ලෝකෙම කියනකොට නැහැ කියනවා.
දැන් අනිල් කියනවා පාස්කු ප්‍රහාරය පරිශීලනය කරන්න එපාලු. ට්‍රම්ප් තරහ.
Ranil is now saying that investigating the Easter Sunday attacks will upset Trump. Why should Trump be upset? Is he the president of Sri Lanka? We must respect global leaders, but our priority is our own sovereignty. Recently, a French magazine asked me if Indian Prime Minister Modi is a powerful figure. He visited Sri Lanka and exerted various influences. I acknowledge that Modi is indeed a powerful leader in India. However, the most influential leader in Sri Lanka is Anura Kumara Dissanayake, not Trump. Ranil's mindset is clear. He is in a state of extreme defeat. He is afraid because today Sinhalese, Muslims and Tamils in Sri Lanka are united and moving forward without ethnic divisions. This unity poses a problem for Ranil, Rajapaksa and Sajid. They are trying to latch onto any ethnic issues to create a division. They aim to create a dissent against the government. I want to tell you that the people of Sri Lanka have come together to form the National People's Power. Sinhalese, Tamils and Muslims have united to create a formidable party. Ethnic divisions will not return. We have built a country with national unity. We have one party, Desiya Makkal Shakti, led by the beloved leader Anura Kumara Dissanayake.
Newsfirst with the people. The local government election Sri Lanka 2025.
Leader of the opposition Sajid Premadasa stated during a public meeting in Tissa Maharama that local government institutions that will be won by the Samkijan Balawegaya do not require government funds.
Now they are making another excuse. In the upcoming local government elections, when we win the majority of the local government institutions in this country, it won't matter whether you provide funds or not. We are committed to delivering excellent public service that the people expect. I declare at this moment that we will dedicate ourselves to this cause. If you want, you can keep your funds. We don't need them.
Meanwhile, former Member of Parliament Ajit Mana Peruma expressed the following views regarding the opposition leader at a media briefing held in Colombo today.
I did not inform the newspapers, nor did I individually inform anyone. Before Sajid Premadasa signed the nomination papers for the presidential election, we told him that without uniting with Ranil Wickremesinghe, he would not be able to win. That warning eventually became a reality. Had they joined forces, Ranil would have become president and Sajid the prime minister. Because I made this statement, I was removed from the Gampa electorate, which I had organized for 22 years. There is no point in working with a leader who targets those who bring the truth. Today, some claim that Sajid will become president in December. The very same people who once said that if Sajid became president, they would not accept cabinet positions. When Lakshman Fonseca visited my home, he mentioned that Sajid Premadasa had 47% of public support to become president. I responded that from what we observed, that would not be enough. I told him that Sajid could only win if he allied with Ranil. I also said that if the results and survey reports later proved otherwise, and if he was willing to take responsibility and bring Sajid and Ranil together, I would fully support that effort. He agreed and gave his word, but he failed to fulfill that promise. It was based on that trust that we worked for Sajid Premadasa. However, when the leader disappeared and became unreachable, I had no choice but to withdraw. He went into hiding. I made nearly 30 calls, but none were answered. Sajid Premadasa did not need to wait until December to become president. When Gotabaya Rajapaksa resigned, Sajid was invited to take over. If he was trembling with fear at that moment, how could he take charge in December? Even if the opportunity had been offered, I know he would not accept it.
Meanwhile, the leader of the Sarvajana Balaya and Member of Parliament Dilip Jayavira stated that those responsible for bringing the country to its current state due to weak opposition must be rejected at the upcoming local government elections.
It is immediately clear that we are headed toward a deeply unfortunate future in the near term. To avoid this, at the very least, we must use the upcoming local government elections as an opportunity to send a strong message to the current administration that this brand of deceptive politics can no longer continue. We must also take decisive action to defeat not only this fraudulent political agenda but also the corrupt dynastic politics of the past that paved the way for its rise to power. Moreover, it is imperative that we reject self-serving politics as well as the weak opposition, which played a significant role in bringing the country to its present state.
Leader of the Damana indigenous community, Vanaspati Uruvarge Vanilatho, brought together candidates from all political parties, contesting the Mahiyangane Pradesha Sabha from the Damana division to the village of Kotabakinia, offering them a platform to address the local community. The event was held under the title of a non-partisan political discussion.
Although 9 candidates from 9 parties were invited to this discussion, only 5 candidates from 5 parties participated.
මේ කාලමැච්ච මද්දු වෙනකම් මේ වාගේ වැඩපොජ්ජක් මේ අත්තන්ට ඊරුකුලට මද්දු ඉලක්ක.
These days it feels like everything is at a standstill. Why do these people always act like this when things need to move forward? Why does this country keep getting held back this way? Every time someone talks about an election, it's the same people who start fighting, blaming each other and blocking progress. This system isn't working for the country, and it's definitely not working for the people. These folks don't even feel like they belong here anymore, not just in the country, but even in their own hometowns. Why does it always feel like they're forced to be quiet, to stay still, like their hands are tied? And yet, not a single one of them seems to feel the weight of what's happening. No one seems to care that the very system that's holding people down is the same one lifting a few to the top.
The candidates who arrived were given the opportunity to express their opinions only after drawing of lots.
Looking at this area, there are many people in our area who need to be granted Aswasama. I will state the utmost responsibility. We will provide the Aswasama welfare benefit to those who are yet to receive it after this election.
තමන්ගේ රූල්ස් වලට කතා කරන්න කියන්නේ මේක අසාධාරණයක්. ආදිස් සභාවට අස්සෙසුම දෙන්න බෑ. එහෙම ප්‍රවර්තනය කරන්න එපා අපේක්ෂකයෝ.
Leader, there are poor people in our villages. These people need to be given relief. So that is what I am saying here. Also, there are people who don't receive allowances for kidney diseases. There are people who don't receive the senior citizens allowance.
වැඩිහිටි දීමනාව දෙන්න ප්‍රාදේශ සභාවට බෑ නායකතුමා. මෙතුමා දන්නේ කියන්නේ මොකටද? මෙතුමා මම කියන්නේ ඒ වගේ කට්ටිය හොයාගන්නවා මම. නායකතුමා මේක නවත්තා. මම මේ සදාන් කරලා තියෙනවා. මේ මේ එහෙම දෙන්න බෑ. මහාන්දුවෙන් මන්දු කරන එක වල ගැන මේතනේ කතා දමන්න පොදුයි. ඒ හැකිමට කතා දමනවා නම් කතාව නතර පුජ්ජ මන්දු කරන්න ඕන. ඕනාගතුමනි ප්‍රාදේශ සභාව කියන්නේ මොකක්ද කියලා
I would not be present at this occasion without knowing what the Pradesha Sabha is. But I have the right to say that there are poor people in this area. I'm also a man of this area, a voter and an election candidate. These unemployed people must definitely have a job. We have systematically given these uncultivated lands to the legally married people. And besides, there is still no right to them. My land also does not have a deed.
මේ වෙනකන් අයිතියක් නැහැ මගේ ඊටමටත් තාම ඔප්පුවක් නැහැ ඉතින් මේ දේවල් අපි ඔප්පු දෙන්න බෑ ප්‍රාදේශ සභාවට එතුමාට කියන්නේ නෑ මේක මාධ්‍යාරා යනවා මේක මාධ්‍යාරා යනවා ඔබතුමාට අභිභාව යනවනම් ප්‍රාදේශ සභාව විශේෂපතේ තුල කතා කරන්න කියන්නකො හරි එතුමාගේ දැනුම ඒක අපිට ගැටලුවක් නේ ඔප්පු ප්‍රශ්න විසඳනවනම් පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ ඉල්ලන්න කියන්නකො අපි කරන්නේ නෑ අනිත් කට්ටිය තියා ගන්න බෑ අනිත් හිටපු සභාපතිතුමා මේ තවත් අපේක්ෂකයෝ ඉන්නවනේ ඒ අපේක්ෂකයෝ කරබලින නාය ඔබතුමාට කරබලින්න බැරි ඔබතුමාට කරබලින්න බැරියයි වැඩ කරේ නෑනේ ඔබතුමාට කරබලින්න බැරියයි ඔබතුමාට මේ අනිත් අපේක්ෂකයෝ මේකනත් දේශපාලනය කරන්න බෑ
Now, what is the point of shouting aimlessly? This is not what the people hope for. We all hope to do good for this village here. If the president of the central government gets involved in the speeches that are being made, it will lead to one-sided politics. These people are again kindly asking for help, and they are making impartial speeches. Leader, I face the biggest injustice here. I am a former chairman of the Mahiyangane Pradesha Sabha. I was not allowed to speak about anything. While I respectfully agreed to all of it, I followed the rules he imposed. I will state with confidence, I will triumph over all the other groups and become the chairman of the Mahiyangane Pradesha Sabha.
Tomorrow marks the 1st of May and a total of 15 May Day parades and rallies are scheduled to take place across the city of Colombo. In light of these events, the police have announced a special security operation and traffic management plan will be implemented throughout the day tomorrow.
The May Day rally of the National People's Power is scheduled to be held at Goldface Green, commencing at 3 p.m. tomorrow. Meanwhile, the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna will hold its May Day rally at the Ananda Samarakon Open Air Theatre in Nugegoda. The Frontline Socialist Party's rally is set to take place at the Lalit Athulat Mudali grounds in Kirulapana. In addition, police announced that rallies and May Day events will also take place at several other locations, including Armour Street, Keselvatta, opposite the A.E. Gunasinghe statue, PD Sirisena grounds, the Central Post Office, Hyde Park, the Public Library premises, the Vihar Mahadevi Open Air Theatre, Koskaha Handia Junction and the Colombo Municipal Council premises. The Samagi Janabalavegya will hold its May Day rally this year in Thalawakale. Police further said that instructions have been issued to senior DIG in charge of provinces, divisional DIGs and SSPs to ensure adequate security at all May Day events. The public is also advised to be prepared to use alternative routes as heavy traffic congestion is expected in Colombo and surrounding areas.
The 32nd commemoration of the late President Ranasinghe Premadasa is scheduled to take place tomorrow.
A Dhamma sermon and almsgiving was held this afternoon at the Sri Sucharita Hall in Colombo in memory of the late President Ranasinghe Premadasa. The observance was conducted under the patronage of Venerable Professor Agalakada Sirisumana Thera. The official ceremony marking the 32nd commemoration of the late President Ranasinghe Premadasa is scheduled to be held tomorrow opposite the Premadasa statue at Halfsdorp, Colombo.
Pakistan's Information Minister Ataullah Tara said that credible intelligence reports indicated that India was planning to conduct a military action against Pakistan in the next 24 to 36 hours. Meanwhile, Indian media reports claim that one of the Pahalgam killers on the run is a former Pakistan commando.
Pakistan has credible intelligence that India intends carrying out military action against Pakistan in the next 24 to 36 hours on the pretext of baseless and concocted allegations of involvement in the Pahalgam incident. India's self-assumed hubristic role of judge, jury and executioner in the region is reckless and vehemently rejected. Pakistan has been the victim of terrorism itself and truly understands the pain of this scourge. We have always condemned terrorism in all its forms and manifestations anywhere in the world. Being a responsible state, Pakistan open-heartedly offered a credible, transparent and independent investigation by a neutral commission of experts to ascertain the truth. Unfortunately, rather than pursuing the path of reason, India has apparently decided to tread the dangerous path of irrationality and confrontation, which will have catastrophic consequences for the complete region and beyond. Evasion of credible investigation is in itself sufficient evidence exposing India's real motives.
Indian media says that security agencies have identified 3 terrorists involved in plotting the Pahalgam terror attack. 2 of them, Lashkar-e-Taiba chief Hafiz Saeed and his deputy Saifullah Kasuri, are in Pakistan, and the third, Hashim Musa, is believed to be hiding in Jammu and Kashmir. Jammu and Kashmir police have announced a bounty of 2 million Indian rupees for any information about Hashim Musa and assured that the informer's identity will be kept a secret. According to sources, the objective is to arrest Hashim Musa alive. Hashim Musa, it is learned, has served as a para-commando in Pakistan's Special Service Group. He later joined Lashkar-e-Taiba and has been part of multiple terror attacks since. He is learned to have entered India in 2023. The Indian Cabinet Committee on Security, or the CCS, chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, held a second meeting today since the Pahalgam terror attack. The CCS in the first meeting took several steps aimed against Pakistan that included suspending the Indus Waters Treaty. Opposition leaders, including Mallikarjun Kharge and Rahul Gandhi, had written to Prime Minister Modi seeking a session of Parliament to present a collective resolve against the terror attack. Prime Minister Modi has affirmed that it is India's resolve to deal a crushing blow to terrorism. He expressed complete faith and confidence in the professional abilities of the Indian Armed Forces. Meanwhile, as NIA digs deep into the Pahalgam terror attack, intelligence agencies have some information that some of the attackers and a local operative are still hiding somewhere in the mountains of the Pir Panjal range. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres also spoke separately with India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. According to a UN spokesperson, Guterres expressed deep concern at rising tensions between India and Pakistan. He pressed on the need for the people to avoid confrontation that could have resulted in tragic consequences. Authorities on Tuesday closed nearly 50 public parks and tourist destinations across Jammu and Kashmir as a precautionary measure in the threat perception that comes in the aftermath of the Pahalgam terror attack.
US President Donald Trump has signed a pair of orders to soften the blow of his auto tariffs today with a mix of credits and relief from other levies on materials as he celebrates 100 days in office by touting record and blasting force.
God bless you.
US President Donald Trump has celebrated the 100th day of his second term in office with a campaign-style speech touting his achievements and targeting political force. Hailing what he called a revolution of common sense, he told a crowd of supporters in Michigan that he was using his presidency to deliver profound change.
What the world has witnessed in the past 14 weeks is a revolution of common sense. That's all it is, really. We're conservative. You're conservative, you're liberal, whatever the hell. You know what it's all about? It's about common sense when you think about it. We're for common sense. In 100 days, we have delivered the most profound change in Washington in nearly 100 years. I read an editorial today that this is the most consequential presidency in history. How about that?
The changes to Trump's 25% vehicle tariffs will provide auto companies with credits for up to 15% of the value of vehicles assembled domestically. These could be applied against the value of imported parts, allowing time to bring supply chains back home. The developments helped ease some investor worries about the erratic trade policies of Trump as the president visited Michigan, a cradle of the U.S. auto industry, just days before a fresh set of 25% import taxes was set to kick in on automotive components. In his latest partial reversal of tariff policies, the Republican president agreed to give carmakers 2 years to boost the percentage of domestic components in vehicles assembled domestically. Meanwhile, the Seoul ministry said that South Korean industry ministry officials will travel to Washington today for technical discussions with U.S. trade representative counterparts, hoping to make progress on a potential deal over U.S. tariffs. The ministry said in a statement that the team will seek to minimize the impact of the tariffs announced by the administration of U.S. President Donald Trump on South Korean companies by seeking exemption from reciprocal tariffs and import duties on automobiles and steel products. The visit by the Industry Ministry officials follows a trip to Washington by Minister Ahn Dak-kyung last week and Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok, where the countries agreed to craft a trade package aimed at removing new U.S. tariffs that are set to take effect on the 8th of July after a pause.
China's Navy conducted a patrol in the South China Sea today, saying that the Philippines has been creating disturbances as the Filipino and United States Air Forces conducted their own joint mission above the disputed waterway.
This is Chinese Naval Warship 552.
Yes,
you are violating China's terror airspace. Leave now. Leave immediately.
China, which claims almost the entirety of the South China Sea, has been involved in an increasingly tense standoff with the Philippines in the waters there, as they both seek to assert their sovereignty claims. More than 14,000 Filipino and US soldiers are participating in joint exercise which runs from the 21st of April through to the 9th of May for a full battle test in the face of shared regional security concerns. China has said the drills are provocative. In a statement late yesterday, the Southern Theater Command of the China's People's Liberation Army said its forces had that same day carried out routine patrols in the South China Sea without giving an exact location. The statement added, quote, "Recently, the Philippines has been frequently carrying out maritime infringement provocations, creating disturbances and pulling in countries from outside the region to organize so-called joint patrols." End quote. The command's naval and air forces have monitored the situation and maintained vigilance, it added. The Philippine military, in its own statement late yesterday, said the Philippines and the US Air Forces had conducted a joint patrol over the South China Sea that day as part of the ongoing defense cooperation. The maritime patrol involved 3 FA-50 fighter jets from the Philippine Air Force, along with 2 US B-1B bombers, 2 F-16s and an F-18.
Gary Anandasankari and Vanita Nathan, both of Sri Lankan origin, have claimed seats in the Canadian general election.
Gary Anandasankari, of Sri Lankan origin and the current Finance Minister and Attorney General, has once again secured victory in the Canadian elections. Since December 2024, Anandasankari has also served as the responsible minister for the Canadian Economic Development Board and as a Member of Parliament. He is notably the first Sri Lankan to hold a position in the Canadian cabinet. Anandasankari first entered Parliament in 2015. According to official results released yesterday, he secured 35,343 votes, amounting to 63.9% of the total. Meanwhile, another Sri Lankan origin candidate, Junita Nathan, contested from Pickering, Brooklyn on behalf of the Liberal Party and received 35,548 votes, securing 54.1% of the vote. Junita, who has lived in Marsamil for many years, is a well-known social activist. According to the official website of the Liberal Party, she was appointed as a councillor in 2022 and has since held several prominent positions. With the victories of Gary Anandasankari and Junita Nathan, the representation of Sri Lankans in the Canadian Parliament has now doubled.
To mark the International Day to End Corporal Punishment on the 30th of April, an advocacy event was held today.
In recognition of the International Day to End Corporal Punishment on the 30th of April, the Stop Child Cruelty Trust, in collaboration with the Child Protection Alliance, hosted an event today in Colombo.
Nepal is the first country that has banned corporal punishment in South Asia and 54th in the world. Nepal enacted Act relating to children 2018. So it's been 7 years that corporal punishment has been banned in Nepal. But having a law is not enough. We have records that even out of 10, 8 children face corporal punishment in Nepal. So my point is, having a law is not enough. Its proper implementation is very important for some changes in the society. We have been working with guardians so that they know what is there in law and how to implement that, how to claim that. So if there is some kind of violation against children, then the children must be aware that there is a mechanism where they can approach, where they can make complaints.
The event featured several speakers and ended in a powerful day of advocacy focused on ending the most prevalent and heinous crimes against children in Sri Lanka.
The first ever pre-annual meeting reception of the International Trademark Association was held in Colombo earlier today.
The International Trademark Association, or INTA, together with Julius and Creasy, hosted its first ever pre-annual meeting reception in Colombo today.
The best way to protect consumers of confusion or passing off and safeguarding the brand owners is by regulating the industry. Legislature provides for same. In my view, the first step is the protection and the safeguard of a trademark by registration, and I believe the brand owners that will be your main concern too. When these gatherings are backed by a globally renowned organization like the International Trademark Association, I'm sure it gives more weight to the discussion and deepens the knowledge and expands the horizons for us all to understand the effect of a trademark in the global sphere.
The event, held ahead of INTA's annual meeting from the 17th to the 21st of May in San Diego, highlighted the growing importance of intellectual property in South Asia. Over 10,000 global IP professionals are expected to attend the main conference.
The Irrigation Department has announced that water is currently being released from 24 large-scale reservoirs and 13 medium-scale tanks and reservoirs across the country.
Due to heavy rains that have been lashing the region since last night, authorities have opened 6 sluice gates of the Rajangane Reservoir to manage rising water levels. Several low-lying paddy fields in Anuradhapura have been submerged following the opening of sluice gates of small-scale tanks in Kalathava and Kavarakkulama. Water is now being released from the Nachaduwa Reservoir as well. Officials warn that water levels in the Malwatu Oya are expected to rise in the coming hours, and residents living downstream are advised to remain vigilant. Meanwhile, 4 sluice gates of the Lunugambehera Reservoir have been opened, as well as 10 sluice gates of the Kantale Reservoir, 4 by 1 foot each and 6 by 6 inches each, to release excess water. According to Newsfirst correspondent, many low-lying areas remain submerged. Heavy rainfall has also caused significant disruptions in the Palagala Divisional Secretariat area of Anuradhapura, damaging several acres of paddy fields and crops. In Rilpola Badula, a mound of earth collapsed on a house in the Egodavalivatta area. Fortunately, the 2 occupants escaped unharmed. In another incident, a person sustained injuries after a tree fell on a house in the upper part of Haliala Quiz town.
In your sports news, the Court of Appeal today agreed to hear the writ petition filed by Maxwell de Silva seeking to invalidate the sports minister's decision to suspend him from performing duties as secretary of the National Olympic Committee. The court set the hearing date for September 4th. Meanwhile, the Court of Appeal rejected the request for an interim order to suspend the minister's decision until the case is heard.
The petition was taken up before the Court of Appeal bench comprising Justices Dhammika Ganepola and Damit Thotavatta. The judges ordered the respondents to file any objections related to the petition on or before the 12th of June. The petitioner's side was instructed to file counter-objections, if any, by the 14th of July. Petitioner Maxwell de Silva claims that the decision taken by the sports minister to suspend him from his post based on instructions from the International Olympic Committee is unlawful. He argues that the sport minister does not have the authority to make such a decision and therefore seeks a writ order to nullify it.
On our segment, Beautiful Sri Lanka today, we journey into the lush greenery of Lunagala in the Badula district, a place where the mountains breathe life into hidden waterfalls and the forest whispers ancient secrets.
Beautiful Sri Lanka.
A mountain spring in Madolsima gives rise to a breathtaking waterfall hidden deep with the Galvala Berelia Forest Reserve in Lunugala. Known as Yodamana Alla, this stunning waterfall can be reached by trekking approximately 2 kilometers into the heart of the jungle. Though the trail is rugged and challenging, the journey is well worth it. The jungle scenery is captivating, and Yodamana Alla flows a year around, offering a serene and powerful natural spectacle. If you're visiting Badulla, this hidden gem is certainly worth exploring. Just be sure to check the route in advance and prepare accordingly.
Beautiful Sri Lanka.
From that, we bring to a close this edition of Primetime News on TV1.
Thank you for watching.
Good night.